Hi, my name is Simusi, and for my artist presentation, I chose Pablo Picasso. Next to his portrait at 19 is his birth date, place of birth, death date, and place of death. Moving on to some pretty brief personal information, Picasso was one of the most influential artists in the art world. As a child, he was trained by his father, showcasing a natural talent for painting. When he had moved to Paris in 1900, living in poverty at the time helped influence certain periods of his work. Some oddities to note about Picasso was that he was often described as misogynist and a womanizer. Ironically enough, the women in his life were great influences in his work and artistic process. Politically, Picasso was a part of the Communist Party until his death in 1973. Moving on to his top 4 most famous pieces, at number 1 we have the Guernica, made in the year 1937. This piece was created in response to the Nazi and fascist Italian bombing of the town in northern Spain. This work is regarded as arguably one of the most powerful anti-war pieces ever made. Sitting at number 2 is Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. This was made in the year 1907, and it flaunts its scandalous depiction of prostitutes rendered with angular and disjointed figures sitting in a protruded manner. This piece has had a profound impact on modern art as we know it today. At number 3, we have The Weeping Woman, made in 1937, modeled after his mistress and primary model from 1936 to 1944, Dora Maar, a photographer and a painter. This painting depicts an abstract characterization of a woman in mourning. Some say this piece is a reflection of the sadness women alike felt during the wartime. The work uses some of his earliest versions, informing the analytic cubism style. And finally, at number 4, The Old Guitarist, which was made in 1903 to 1904. My personal favorite. It depicts an old sightless man, feeble and vulnerable, latching onto his guitar. This creation was said to be brought upon the poverty and struggle after his friend Casamagas' death. Belonged to his best-known periods, often like many artists, Picasso used color to reflect his emotions, directing in for deeper interpretation for his work. Regarding his categorized trend periods, his blue period was brought upon his youth, tragedy, and emotional fragility through his first set of works. In contrast was his rose period, demonstrating a more pink and reddish hues in representation to happier times. From his rose period, a year or so after, transitioned to heavier, more solid, darker aspects of works, which were the first makings of the collaborative style of analytic cubism and collages. His pigmentation periods of works are what made me think he was a great example of how color could be used and how to relate back to our class. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation in graphics. I came up with this format.